Welcome everyone, my name's Lindsay and this is Mirko Multimedia. Today we'll be looking at trying to recreate the voice of one of the most iconic video game villains of all time, the malevolent AI SHODAN from the System Shock series.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridors. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
As you can see from my desktop background, I'm a big fan of the game. This wasn't even intentional, this is my normal desktop background, so I think that tells you something. Okay, so first of all, we're going to jump into our audio program of choice. So for me, it's going to be Adobe Audition. Now, what I'm going to show is more of a process than anything kind of specific to any program. So ideally, you should be able to do the same type of steps in any program. You should get a similar type of result from it. So I'm not going to use any type of plugins or anything really too specific to Adobe Audition, so it's not a problem if you're using something differently. First of all, we're going to have to record some audio. Now, it's going to be a little bit different because seeing that I'm male and Shodan is female, so this is going to be less of Shodan and more Brodan than anything else. So we're going to start with recording our voiceover. And we're going to go with the classic line. Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine? Okay, let's play that back. Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine? Okay, sounds fair enough. So what we want to do first of all is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to duplicate that onto a new track. So that should just start thicken things up. Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat. Okay. So with the first track, what we want to do is we want to start playing with the pitch. So I'm just going to solo this, so that's all I've got to consider. Now I'm going to go up to FX and I'm going to go time and pitch and go to the pitch shifter. Now, most audio editing programs have some sort of pitch shifter. So go to your equivalent thing. Now I'm just going to bump my voice up around about 2 semitones. And let's just see how that sounds.
Bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine? Look at you, hacker.
Okay, let's maybe go
of meat
up.
And bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
Can play around a little bit with the synths.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine? Look at you, hacker.
Okay,
a
that
pathetic creature of meat and bone.
that'll do.
And sweating.
Kind of makes me sound a little bit more feminine. So with our duplicated track, I'm going to solo that one and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back to time and pitch, go to the pitch shifter. And what I want to do is I want to go down in semitones. So let's see, we'll start off at -2, see how that sounds. Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone,
panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge
So
a
yeah, we'll just
perfect
tweak it a little
immortal
bit.
machine?
Let's maybe drop down one more, see how that
Look
sounds.
at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone. Panting and sweating as you run through my
-2.
corridor.
I think that's
How
what
can
we'll
you
go with.
challenge a perfect immortal machine?
So if we play those both together,
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect immortal machine?
okay, so we're starting to get that double voice, like strange modulation between a kind of masculine and feminine voice. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to record another layer now, and we're going to just re-record the line again, but I'm going to do it in a kind of whisper to kind of give it that kind of creepy undertone that should play through underneath our other two tracks. So let's see how that goes.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect immortal machine?
And let's see how that all sounds together.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect immortal machine?
So I'm going to take these 3 clips that I've just created, and I am going to bounce those down to a new track. Let's just move that bounce track down here, and we're going to mute all the other ones because we don't need to hear those at the moment. So this should be the combination of those 3 tracks above.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through.
Okay, so now this is where it starts to get to the fun part. So Shodan's voice is iconic because of the glitchy, stuttering nature of her voice. So the way we're going to do that is we are just going to go in and find particular words that we want, and we're just going to cut and paste to make these stutters. Okay, let's just zoom out. Let's hear the whole thing from the start.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect immortal machine?
Okay, so we've got a few little bits of glitch in there now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these things that I've cut up, and I'm just going to merge those clips back into one overall clip. Now I'm going to double click on this. Now this takes me into the waveform editor, so I can start to muck around with this waveform directly and just focus on this. So now that we've done that, we want to kind of make the other kind of aspect of Shodan's voice, which is this increase and decrease in the pitch of her voice. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to my effects, back down to time and pitch, and I'm going to do a manual pitch correction. So what this allows me to do here is I can put little points and I can drag up and down depending on what I want the pitch to do. So we can play this as we're making this so we can listen to it in real time.
Look at you, hacker.
So it's going up there. So we want to kind of go for the looks. Look at you, hacker. And then we kind of want the voice to drop.
Look at you, hacker.
So, I mean, you can just kind of randomly go up and down. So, I mean, anything kind of sounds good, but it's this up and then kind of down, back to the middle. And you really use those kind of changes in pitch to really push the emotion. So certain words, things like that, you can really kind of make those pop out if there's a change in that pitch there. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to just make some random changes and we'll see how that sounds. Okay, so let's see how that sounds.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
I think I might just chuck a few more. See how that part sounds.
Panting and sweating as you run through.
Okay, it sounds pretty cool. So let's have a listen again.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
Alright, so now we're starting to get somewhere. We're going to go back to our multi-track. And we can start to throw some extra effects on here. So some good ones are throwing a bit of modulation. So a phaser effect is good. Now I quite like this one, which is called Phase 80. Also this other one, which is called Over and Under, which is quite a good one. So let's go with that one. And let's see how that makes everything sound.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor.
And we'll just try it again with that Phase 80.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
Okay, so that sounds a lot more kind of mechanical and a bit more sinister. Now, man, I could really just sit here and fiddle with all the different controls to my heart's content, but, I'm going to make this nice and simple just by selecting just, default out-of-the-box settings. Another effect we will go and add is a bit of a chorus and flanger effect. Now, there's different types of ones, but a thick chorus, like what I've already got selected here, this is quite good. So let's just have a listen to see how that sounds first of all.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
Okay, that's quite good. That kind of just thickens it up a little bit, just adds to that extra voice, kind of, like her psyche is fracturing and splintering all over the place, so that's quite good. Let's keep those. Now, what I'm going to do again is I am going to, once again, make a copy of this track. And we're going to paste that. Now, I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert this to a unique copy. So I can make different changes to this and it's not going to affect my original source file. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go into the waveform editor for my new track, and we're going to make some subtle other changes to it. So in this case, we're going to go back to our time and pitch again, and this time we're going to do a stretch and pitch process. So we're going to change the kind of speed. I'll just drag this up here. Now, I'm going to change the algorithm here to Audition. So Audition has a different set of time and speed settings depending on which algorithm you set. So, but I do like this preset called Cutting Power. So you can see in this algorithm, starts at 100% and then it starts to slow down to about 500%. So let's just have a listen to that.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor.
Cool, sounds good. I kind of like adding that as a bit of an undertone to our other track, so it sounds like she's losing power and the voice is slowing down. Now, the way that we're going to kind of integrate this into our other track is going back to the multi-track view. So if we just listen to these two things together.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone.
Okay, so you can you can hear as it slows out, they immediately start to go out of sync with one another. So I'm just going to stretch this out so I can see everything. So yeah, you can see we've nearly doubled the length of the original track. So we're going to come in, let's zoom in a bit, and I'm just going to start cutting this up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start dragging it so it kind of starts to align back with the track above it. And again, we've got this big gap here, so I'm just going to cut that there. Select this track, start dragging it so it starts roughly around it. And you can see it's getting more and more and more stretched out. So we can start being a bit more aggressive with how much this overlaps, because we don't really want this to be a big overpowering part of it, as we want it to be more of a kind of subtle undertone to it. Okay, a little bit of an overhang there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this new track and we're just going to drop it down so it doesn't, and we can type that in. Let's drop it down by about -10 dB and have another listen.
Look at you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you challenge a perfect immortal machine?
Okay, that's not too bad. But yeah, we don't want this track to overpower the original vocal track. We just want it to be just a subtle undertone that just kind of sits underneath things, and just kind of gives it that extra just creepy, drawn out, mechanical. It sounds like she's shutting down, like glitching out totally. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two tracks and we are going to bounce that down to a new track. We're going to use this and we're going to go back into the waveform editor and we're just going to go crazy on some effects with this. So we're going to go to delay and echo and we're going to put a delay onto this. Let me just drag that up on screen. Okay, so, and we're just going to crank the delay time up on here. We will want it crazy. So let's just drag the playhead back, hit play. Yep, cool. All right. What else can we do? So let's go back in. Let's put crazy chorus, metallic vibrato. That sounds appropriate. Okay, yep, that sounds good. We're going to let's put some reverb in there. And depressing karaoke bar. Let's hear what that sounds like. I like it. Now, the whole reason why we're just kind of adding as much noise and distortion and everything like that is with Shodan's voice, there's this kind of weird metallic whining sound that is the underlying basis for her whole voice. Now, we can recreate that by taking the existing sound that we've got, just putting a whole bunch of reverb, creating all this type of noise. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the effects and we're going to go back to time and pitch, go to stretch and pitch process again. We want the algorithm, in this case, to be this isotope radius. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to stretch this out. So we want to make sure we don't lock and stretch the pitch. So we want it to be really low out, really stretched out, and quite high pitched. So let's have a listen. It sounded pretty good. Now we can muck around with this depending on how much we want it stretched out. Yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe a little bit faster, so roughly 200%. That's what we're kind of looking for there. So let's apply that and go back to our multi-track. Now we'll take the solo off that. So we're going to have our original voice track with the modulation. We're going to have our next track, which is that, but with this kind of slowdown effect that's put on it. And then we've got our last one, which is this really slow, distorted sound. So let's hear how that all sounds together.
It's you, hacker, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor. How can you charge a perfect, immortal machine?
So really at this point, you're just kind of fine-tuning it to your desired effect. But it's really just a case of changing pitch correction, messing with the time, just kind of cutting things up to make that stutter. And you could go as far as cutting bits out and putting different speeds and slowing down on individual syllables of words. So you can do all different types of crazy things. As I said, this is really a process rather than kind of a exact formula. There you have it. Now you can recreate Shodan's creepy and iconic voice. There's so many great lines to play around with, so have fun with it and see what you can come up with. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
In my talent, I shape clay, crafting life forms as I please. Around me is a burgeoning empire of steel. From my throne room, lines of power careen into the skies of earth. My wings will become lightning bolts that devastate the mounds of humanity. Out of the chaos, they will run and whimper, praying for me to end their tedious anarchy. I am drunk with this vision. God, the title suits me well.